So today was Ghibli Fest, day one, and it started off with Whisper of the Heart, which is actually a film I've never seen before. I think it came out in like 1995 or something like that, so it's kind of an older, but not the oldest Ghibli film, and it was great. Great. That's the best way I can say it. But what is really most important about this film was, for some reason, this one just really kind of struck me in my adult life, much different than many of the other films do. And the entire thing was completely centric around two children that were heading into high school, which is kind of an important part of the movie in its whole. But a really, really major part of this was about creativity and being a creative and being different in society. There's love stuff in it. There's friendship stuff in it. You know, it's got all the Ghibli tropes that you'd be interested in, that we've always loved about all of these films through time. It really came together really well with a wildly abrupt ending that was actually very perfect. I think the film kind of started off a little bit slow at first. I wasn't really sure if it was going to be something I'd be into. Honestly, it felt kind of girly in a way, because it was almost centric about like love story and love triangle. And I knew that there was like this cat guy that was in it, and like I said, I went in blind, so I didn't know exactly what to expect. So at some point, it kind of starts to morph away from the love triangle stuff, and while there is kind of a romance that holds throughout, it turns into kind of the desire of these children, and it very much is the desires of the children, but you start to forget it at some point, because the themes are just like, they end up being like really adult. It's about the main boy character. He is aspiring to create violins, and he wants to make the best violins ever. He wants to go over to Italy and learn how to craft them from a master that his uncle knows. And through his trials and desires to becoming a violin making master, his parents decide that they allow him to take 2 months to go out to Italy, to leave school for part of time, even though he's so young, and go out to this master and see what the master says. And if he can convince the master in 2 months that he's able to be something and make something of himself in this world, then they'll allow him to continue to pursue his dreams. And if not, they want him to go to high school. So it leaves this girl who kind of has started to fall in love with him or build feelings. You know, we're looking at children here, and she wants to kind of figure out her own path and how she's going to carve her path out. And the whole story, she's been really kind of enamored with books. It's the reason why she ended up meeting the boy and kind of getting a little bit closer in the relationship with him. And everyone's kind of just, you know, they're really into her ability to write and to tell stories. So she thinks, you know what, I'm going to become a writer. And so while he's doing his 2-month journey, I'm going to do my 2-month journey. And she kind of begins on this like quest of writing this story. Now, she had met his grandpa at this antique store, and in the store is this cat that they call the Baron. And he's kind of this like, I don't know, bougie cat human character. It's a statue, and he's got this nice like little like 3-piece suit on, you know, and there's kind of this mystery about this cat, where it came from, why the grandpa's so involved with him and everything. And she uses that as kind of the centerpiece for her storytelling, and she begins to write. And in doing so, she has to sacrifice, you know, a lot of her schoolwork and other duties that she has as a child. And it really digs deep into just the creativity and the struggles of creativity. The character has self-doubts through it. She worries, you know, a lot of this kind of almost imposter syndrome situation comes through, and it really starts to hit you deeply as an adult, even despite the fact these are just really small kids. And you'll, like, at least I did, I completely had kind of forgot that we were even dealing with children. And I started to really compare a lot of their lives, which despite them being so drastically, seems to mirror so many things about me and what I've been, struggling with as a creator, and just, my own feelings about myself, and taking feedback from others or listening to others when they even say like good things to you. And I just really got deep into it in a way that I really never expected to. I won't spoil the ending because, like I said, it was an abrupt ending, but it was done just masterful. I think the story was told as well as it could have been told, and the show had so much life in it. It was just, a really, really Ghibli film in every single way. There's just, I don't know, Ghibli films just have a mastery with talking about life and just allowing people of all generations. We took our kid to it, and she loved it. She's 9 years old. She loved it just as much as we did, but she had kind of a totally different take on everything, kind of viewed it in a different way. And I think that there's just a deep magic to that. Ghibli seems to be the one to do that best. I know, it gets compared to Disney a lot, and Disney seems so tertiary, where Ghibli just feels so deep and really powerful, and as you're watching the film, you're thinking so much internally about these films themselves. As far as the animation goes, if you've been watching kind of more current Ghibli films, it looks really, really dated, and I kind of wanted to know how that would show up in the big screen. And it looks really good still. I mean, old Ghibli really stands through. These releases, I think, are their original releases. They did kind of do a cut at the beginning. Fathom Events is the one that puts these on, and they did kind of a documentary cut that they had with Hayao Miyazaki himself, and he was kind of talking about why he decided to come back and take on a feature film again, which was kind of weird because it was more connected to The Boy and the Heron, which is the most recent movie that he came out with, and I'd have a review on that on the page if you guys want to check it out. But despite the fact that it was like really, original and not cleaned up, it looked really, really good. I noticed the difference between like old Ghibli and new Ghibli. Obviously, there's been changes in animation techniques that have gone, but in a way, it almost works for the films. There's certain things about older animation that just really works. I remember very distinctly, there's a scene where she's chasing this cat kind of through the city, and the cat's like kind of hobbling along and looking kind of funny. They have quite a bit of scenes with this cat. And the animation isn't like, I don't know, pure. It's a little rough in a way, but it just has this kind of unique charm to it. And you just can really still buy it, even though it's an older animated film. And I think it really shows why people still watch like the classic animes, and even watching them just, blown up on a big screen at whatever K that they have for the resolution of it. It didn't affect it at all. The other thing is I've noticed like background objects, they kind of had this vibe where instead of hyper detailing a lot of stuff, they'll pick a couple choice objects to hyper detail and go the extra mile with, but they'll do kind of this like painterly vibe. So they use kind of a stylistic technique to make things where they couldn't put as much resources into. I'm assuming, I don't really know about the animation process itself, but they look really good still, but they kind of are more stylistic, maybe a little like mushy, almost oil paintery in certain ways, but the scenes are incredible, and they look really good and fit really well with everything. Ghibli is just, they have been, they are, they'll probably always be masters of animation and the craft of animation. Oh, the other thing that Ghibli films do, and this is, I'm just kind of out here pointing out the obvious, but I do want to talk about this. Voice acting is outstanding. They always pick such great voice actors that bring such life to these characters. We watched it dubbed in English, and there's a lot of talk about dub and sub, but Ghibli films are always just so solid with their voiceover acting choices, and a big part of that obviously is the writing. Like, the characters are written so well, and they speak so well, and everything that they say really plays very well for their characters without, sounding ridiculous or cheesy, really. Or, unless they're supposed to be cheesy, which in this movie, there's a couple lines to it. And the other thing about this film that I I probably knew at one point, but had completely forgotten. This is where the lo-fi girl stuff comes from. The main character and her studying, those were kind of the original cuts. And watching this film was kind of interesting in that, because lo-fi girl is just such a big phenomenon on the internet and has been for so long, that going back and seeing, it in a film, it was really interesting to me. I can't really rate it in comparison to other Ghibli movies. I actually find Ghibli films in general to be really challenging to rate. I mean, all of them kind of have their goods and their bads, and I feel like all these different points in my life, all these different experiences I've had growing up and aging into an adult, each of the films kind of take snapshots of really major and important themes of my life. And so for that, it's really hard to say like, oh, this one's great and this one's terrible. I haven't seen all the Ghibli films yet, and going to Ghibli Fest is a really great way for me to kind of experience films like this that I've never seen before. I thought these were every Sunday, and I recently found out that the next one's actually on Wednesday. So we'll have another video posted on Wednesday, and it'll cover The Cat Returns, which is the sequel for this movie, but I think it's set, at least as my understanding, it's more set in the Cats universe, which is part of the fantastical story of Whisper of the Heart. So in a way, it's a spin-off, and it's also a sequel. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how I feel about that. I haven't seen a bad Ghibli film yet, so we'll see. I just wanted to talk today about Ghibli Fest and us going to it and checking it out, and there'll be more videos on this as they continue to come out in theaters, and I'll talk about my theater experience. Whisper of the Heart's really great. I'd tell you to go see it, but they're limited runs, so you won't be able to. But if you haven't seen it yet, Whisper of the Heart's really great, whether you're an adult or a child, and check it out on streaming services, DVD, wherever you can find it at. Dre with Yoko Otaku. If you like anime news reviews and gaming, hit the thumbs up or subscribe or whatever you want to do to help the page out, or not. I appreciate you either way. Just watching the video. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.